home for his location in the provincial trading port founded in 46 BC as a colony for veterans of the Roman Legion.
Yeah.
The record may yield even more stunning surprises. A piece of the
I'm ready.
Just ready for safety, but you're chatting after world parent losing a child. Police said Jonathan Walker, 24, was speeding along a narrow, winding road Monday afternoon with 35 elementary school students aboard when he wrapped the bus around a tree. Walker was arrested and charged with 5 counts of vehicular homicide. Reeling from the tragedy, Chattanoogans lined up to donate blood and created a memorial of flowers and stuffed toys at the crash scene. Parents who send their children off to school every day struggle to come to grips with the shock and break the news to their loved ones. It's real tough, said Dewan Bucci, whose daughters Jamea and Janisa are 8th graders who used to go to the same school as the youngsters killed in the wreck. It's tough on my kids because they know some of the victims as well. Police said Walker was driving well over the posted 30 miles per hour limit when he lost control of the bus. He was jailed on $107,000 bail until a court appearance November 29th. He also is charged with reckless driving and reckless endangerment. 12 children remained hospitalized Tuesday, 6 in intensive care, said Kirk Kelly, interim school superintendent. 3 of the children killed were in the 4th grade, 1 was in the 1st grade, and another in kindergarten. Kelly said their names were not released. All the children aboard went to Woodmore Elementary School. Reports Monday said 6 children had been killed. It was unclear how the discrepancy occurred. The most unnatural thing in the world is for a parent to mourn the loss of a child, Mayor Andy Burke said. There are no words that can bring comfort to a mother or a father. So today the city is praying for these families. The National Transportation Safety Board sent a team to investigate. Police obtained a warrant to remove the vehicle's black box, which contains data on the vehicle's movements. NTSB Chairman Christopher Hart said the agency would look at such factors as the driver's actions, the conditions of the bus, and whether seatbelts, something the NTSB has been pushing for, would have made a difference. The bus involved in the accident did not have seatbelts. Walker had an accident involving property damage in September, and his license was suspended for about a month in 2014 for failure to show proof of insurance, according to the state commercial driver records. He appeared to have no criminal record in Tennessee, authorities said. Hamilton County School District spokeswoman Amy Kutcher declined to say whether the district had received any complaints involving Walker, who was employed by an outside bus contractor, Durham School Services. She referred all questions about his performance and that of other Durham drivers to the company. Legally, there's no way that we could discipline someone who is not our employee, Kutcher said. We've got 192 Durham bus drivers. Obviously, this is a bad one. Durham CEO David Duke issued a statement on Twitter saying the company was devastated by the accident and working with police and school officials to investigate. Company officials did not return calls and emails seeking comment. Paul?
We'll turn to an article entitled Peace. If the Pilgrims Could Do It. Let us observe a Thanksgiving truce, a brief and voluntary ban on free speech. One glorious day to avoid discussing the GOP elephant in the room. A day to duct tape discussions of winners, losers, nepotism, and neo-Nazi lawsuits, settlements, trade agreements, pay for play, pea grabbing, exports, imports, emails, walls, fences, pantsuits, protesters, paid and otherwise, and certain Broadway musicals. Let us not gloat about this glorious return to America of yore, nor bemoan this revolting return to our racist past. Let the only time we utter the word Trump be during the after-dinner pitch game. May we only mention Hillary when paired with Duff. Let us look upon our misguided relatives with compassion and say please when it's time to pass the sweet potatoes. It is Thanksgiving after all. a holiday full of grace, yet fraught with peril even during the best of times. Was Aunt Mary drunk when she got here? Was the addition of butter to the gravy an anti-vegan microaggression? Who gave the baby a turkey bone? It is my favorite of all the holidays, despite its familial and dietary complications. Our only holiday, unfettered by commercialism, a national day of gratitude based on a fairy tale version of history. Although the Pilgrims weren't wearing body cams, so no one really knows. This year, more than ever, Americans are worried about politics polluting the dinner table. Polls, likely unreliable, show that our fear of uncivil election year discourse outweighs our next two Thanksgiving worries combined. The ever-popular weather spoiling holiday plans and favorite team losing. There is nothing we can do about the Vikings game. Let us have safe spaces at our holiday tables, in our after-dinner armchairs, in our backyard pickup games. Let us discuss with great candor any number of topics. The weather, for instance, a reliably nonpartisan conversation piece. Although this year, steer clear of sidebars such as global warming, Chinese hoaxes, or the Paris Climate Accord. How about the cuteness of children and grandchildren? Another controversy-free subject, as long as one refrains from mentioning that the wee ones' collective futures are A, dreadfully dire, B, rosy at last, C, dependent on their skin color and immigration status. And who doesn't like television? Safe topics of debate include Netflix or Hulu, Time Warner or Dish, Modern Family or The Americans. Caveat, avoid bringing up Saturday Night Live at all costs. How about those Huskers? This is the perfect venue to extol Mike Riley's virtues. Give a shout out for Riker Fife and say a prayer for Tommy Armstrong's hamstring, or both hamstrings. Why not? If you've exhausted the above possibilities before the pumpkin pie is served, talk about the feast. Compliment the cooks. If you don't care for tofurkey, skip it. Not sure what that was. If the sight of ham makes you nauseous, turn the other cheek. Whatever you do, don't diss sugar. It's the only thing that's getting some of us through. I'm going to assume we all have already agreed to disavow white supremacists and will be signing a joint letter to the president-elect to let him know post-haste, post-holiday. After the meal, a mid-afternoon walk with a like-minded relative is acceptable. When out of earshot of the other side, feel free to let loose. Falling on the pavement is discouraged. People might talk. Ditto for breaking into chants of, "We've made America great again, so shut your privileged pie hole." Alternatively, consider a 3-hour nap or offer to do the dishes alone with a bottle of wine. And even if it should go without saying, don't wear a red hat to the table. Just don't. Remember, you love these people. They love you, even if they are terribly misguided or feel exactly the same way about you. Rick?
Good article. Obamacare uncertainty roils health industry. 6 years into building its business around the Affordable Care Act, the nation's $3 trillion healthcare industry may be losing that political playbook. Industry leaders, like many voters, were stunned by the election of Donald Trump and unprepared for Republicans' plans to repeal and replace Obamacare. In addition, industry officials are only guessing as to the details of any substitute for the federal health law. It will be repealed and replaced, Trump said this month in an interview on CBS's 60 Minutes. At the same time, he vowed to preserve popular provisions of the law, like ensuring that people with pre-existing conditions can get insurance and allowing young adults to stay on their parents' health plans. Charles Chip Kahn, chief executive of the Federation of American Hospitals, said that before the election, health groups had not been meeting with the Republicans about a rewrite of the law because the working assumption was we had a program that wasn't going anywhere. The health industry had invested heavily in strategies geared to the ACA's incentives. Nobody was ready for this, said Donald Crane, who had CAPG, a national trade group for physicians' organizations. We didn't have a plan B. The results appear to have rattled the fragile industry coalition that the Obama administration carefully crafted to support the law. The hospital industry may be the most vulnerable to proposed changes, which could result in millions of Americans losing health coverage, both through the insurance exchanges and expansion in the Medicaid program for those with lower incomes. Hospitals cut a deal with Congress and the Obama administration in 2009 when the Affordable Care Act was being drafted. They agreed to substantial cuts in Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, anticipating that those cuts would be offset by increases in paying customers who are newly insured. If you're a hospital, you've sort of made this deal that you're going to get more coverage, so you accepted Medicare cuts, said Dean Rosen, a longtime Republican congressional staffer who now represents health interests in Washington. What's going to happen now? If expanded coverage under Obamacare goes away and Kahn, then those whose cuts should be restored, because those were done with the notion that uninsured people were going to have coverage. While the pharmaceutical industry would stand to lose paying customers if the law were changed in a way that people lose insurance coverage, it would actually be a winner under a Republican president in Congress. That's because the industry will be less at risk of the price controls that Democrats were vowing to try to impose. Insurers expressed mixed feelings about a potential repeal. The government-run exchanges where consumers can purchase federally subsidized coverage are a key pillar of Obamacare, but many insurers have complained about losing money in those marketplaces because too many sick people are signing up and healthier consumers are sitting out. Paul?
This article out of New York. Researchers say a severe birth defect caused by Zika infection may not be apparent at birth, but develop months afterwards. Further confirmation that the virus can cause unseen damage to developing babies. The findings come from a study of 13 Brazilian babies whose heads all appeared normal at birth, but then grew much more slowly than normal. Most people infected with Zika never develop symptoms, but the infection during pregnancy can cause devastating birth defects, including microcephaly, in which a baby's skull is much smaller than expected because the brain hasn't developed properly. Microcephaly is diagnosed based on a measurement of the baby's head circumference. It can be done during pregnancy using ultrasound or after the baby is born. Doctors then compare the measurement to standard sizes of both kids based on gender and age. The study focused on 13 babies born in Brazil late last year and earlier this year. All had heads that were a little small at birth, but within the normal range. Over the next 5 to 12 months, doctors noted their heads weren't growing at normal rates. 11 were eventually diagnosed with microcephaly. Many of the children also developed other problems that have been linked to Zika, including epilepsy, problems swallowing, muscle weakness, and inflexible joints. Dr. Peter Salama, chief of emergencies at the World Health Organization, told reporters in Geneva on Tuesday that understanding of the complications from Zika continues to evolve. We are also learning a lot every day, he said. Rick?
Scientists track whale shark DNA in the water. Whale sharks are the largest fish in the ocean, but that doesn't mean they're easy to study. Scientists hoping to learn about them must spy on them from the air, tagging them with devices so that they can be tracked by a satellite or sneak up on them to collect tissue samples for DNA analysis. But there may be an easier way. Researchers from Denmark and Qatar are able to learn about a group of whale sharks in the Persian Gulf simply by gathering the seawater around them and analyzing the environmental DNA it contained. With 20 samples of seawater, the research team was able to show that the recently discovered group of about 200 whale sharks was more closely related to the whale sharks from the tropical portions of the Indian and Pacific Oceans than to the colonies in the Atlantic. They were also able to estimate the number of breeding females in the population, according to the report published this week in Nature, Ecology, and Evolution. The surface seawater samples were collected from 15 spots around the El Shaheen oil field, where the whale sharks have been observed. Most of the samples contain just 1.5 liters of water. The researchers used DNA sequencing machines to decode the mitochondrial DNA extracted from the water. Mitochondrial DNA contains relatively few genes that are found in the part of the cell that converts food into energy and is passed down from mother to child virtually unchanged. By zeroing in on a few sections of the mitochondrial genome, they were able to gauge the genetic diversity of the Persian Gulf whale sharks and compare them to their cousins in the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans. By counting up the accumulated mutations in certain parts of the genome, the researchers calculated that the whale sharks had an effective female population size of between 43,618 and 183,526. This is the population of mothers that give birth to the next generation. Doing the same analysis with the tissue samples instead of the DNA from seawater yielded a range of 85,000 to 351,000 females. Although the average of the two ranges varied greatly, the fact that they were overlapped at all shows that environmental DNA offers a promising way to estimate effective population size, the researchers wrote. The DNA samples also contain DNA fragments from mackerel tuna, which spawn near Al Shaheen. In fact, the greater the concentration of whale shark DNA, the greater the concentration of tuna DNA. The reverse was also true. When whale sharks' DNA was relatively scarce, tuna DNA was scarce as well. This is most probably a sign that the whale sharks had come to the area to hunt the tuna, the researchers wrote. Paul?
In this article out of Fresno, California, gripping tiny slices of sheer rock and hoisting himself up 3,000 feet with only his strength, Adam Andra quietly inched his way up one of the world's most challenging rock walls and into the record books, the spokesman for the climbers said Tuesday. Andra, a 23-year-old from the Czech Republic, to finish the free climb up the Dawn Wall of the famed El Capitan in California's Yosemite National Park. He completed the second ever free ascent of the wall Monday, said John DiCarlo, a spokesman for Black Diamond Equipment, which sponsors Andra. Nearly 2 years ago, U.S. climbers Tommy Caldwell